the sons of bondage whom he ventured out to save, and though he lost his life.
It was no mistake that radical abolitionist John Brown chose Chambersburg, Pennsylvania as his supply base and staging area for his raid on Harpers Ferry. Chambersburg had excellent access to rail, was located in the north, but was still close enough to the south for Brown to deploy his attack. In the summer of 1859, Brown and several of his associates stayed at 255 East King Street in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, the boarding house of Mary Ritner. Brown assumed the identity of Isaac Smith, owner of a mining operation. Under this disguise, Brown was able to receive the heavy shipments of weapons for his planned takeover of the arsenal at Harpers Ferry. And I'm reading from explorefranklincountypa.com. And today we are going on an excursion into the past. My good friend the professor gave me a call and said, hey, I'm going to go check out this John Brown house, and invited me to come along. And so I invite you to come along on this day's excursion into the past. It should be very interesting. And if you're tuning in, thanks for tuning in. And welcome to a little bit of history here on the East Coast.
Construction site that they're.
You said there's an underground tunnel here.
Right? And in the middle of he was downstairs, the guy that runs this place, Belgian Cafe on the right, was in a basement across the way, the bookstore's basement. And he saw this arched, sealed up entranceway, which is also in his basement, he said. And then when he looked into it, he said, this tunnel that ran through there may have been part of the Underground Railroad escape area. Now, in other words, the town had so many abolitionists here, secretly operating, that this tunnel was used to hide slaves that would go out onto there, and then the railroad station was right across the way. Now the railroad, the Historical Society said, railroad operators, conductors and stuff, on the railroads in this part of Pennsylvania were secretly working to help slaves escape. A lot of them, not all. So he was pointing this out the other day to me. I'll show you what remains of this tunnel, because right here there's a tunnel going from building to building. See, underneath, just a pathway. But there's also one that runs all the way out here. He said it's been sealed. So exactly what that tunnel was for, he's suggesting that it may have been built for that very purpose. Right here, it says you see this beam there? That beam? This is the cross tunnel. That's across here. This is that beam is right above where the entranceway of his basement to the tunnel was.
That's awesome.
And he says this cross area, somebody told him it might have been where 4 or 5 would huddle and wait until night to escape, get on the railroad car. I go into that way because just beyond those woods was the railroad station. The little ice cream shop across the bridge was the railroad station location.
So it was indeed underground.
Yeah, that's an error. It's a little, I guess, a little layer into the tunnel. That beam, he says the beam is probably originally from the cross tunnel. Oh, actually, you can see.
Welcome to Chambersburg.
See, it's sealed up over here. See? Maybe that's the
you can see the stone and the difference.
See? Yeah. So, interesting.
I'd love to take a look down there again someday.
He says it runs across to this excavated area there. But he says you can't see the entrance over there because it's all sealed up with rocks.
Find is so interesting.
Point it out because you see everything's down. I've read so many different stories about John Brown that he did not receive weapons except a bunch of outdated swords that was like army surplus, and a few old muskets that were worthless, almost worthless. Like, in other words, his suppliers, abolitionist churches up north, they helped him, but they were more encouragement than actual. Now here, they're saying that he received firearms and ammunition, which is a serious suggestion. Well, he had to have gotten those guns and used in the raid somewhere.
It's a great house.
Yeah, it was a boarding house, that's what they're saying. It was a Rittenhauser, a Rittenberg. Yeah, probably added on to in the back, maybe. But that sloped back roof, and it could be other time too.
show. The Ritner children thought so highly of John Brown, Isaac Smith, and John Henry, Katie. The whole family thought so highly. And so we have the portrait of the governor here, which was paid for by one of our representatives. It's the original's hanging in the Simon Cameron Mansion in Dauphin County. Guess whose picture we have over here?
Dad.
Dad, yes, because he came to Chambersburg and defended runaway slaves in Franklin County Court. And so he may have been in this house. I can't say for sure. But we have it set up in here as if, they might be reading the newspaper, the kids might be playing jacks. John Brown is reading the Bible. That's most important to him. And as I told you about the man who was hired to take John Brown and his things to Maryland came through 3 doors. 1, 2, 3. That's correct. That's correct. But Frederick Douglass would not go along with that.
Do you think Frederick Douglass arriving in town would have been recognized?
Immediately. He got off the train and he was immediately recognized and he was asked to speak. And he did. He spoke in Franklin Hall, which was at that time, like an office building. What do you mean?
This house.
How this survived the burning?
Yeah, the burning.
Because I was telling everybody that it didn't come this far east. It stopped on Main Street. It did not come up. It really did not come up King Street.
East. Okay. Interesting.
It's Main Street, Queen Street, Lincoln Way, West King burned. They didn't come this way.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I hope you guys find this a treat. This is great.
I'm standing right here, I'm making sure.
This is all period furniture, but nothing is original to the house. Because this house was sold so many times. As a matter of fact, in the 1880s, 90s, the American Cancer Society was on the first floor and the Heart Association was on this floor.
Highly renovated and made to look the wall structure and the
That's pretty.
was that original or was it
The
renovated?
wall structure is pretty much the same, I think.
Position of the wall.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, I did a lot of research to make sure that we had the right colors for the time period, the right wallpaper down in the borders room for that time period.
This wasn't dilapidated and leaking rain when they took it over and
When PHMC took it over, I don't know.
I said 2009, around the time you mentioned for the floors
We
original?
did, yeah, we had to do some work. We had to do some renovation on the floors.
So these may not be the original furniture.
Yeah, they're the original,
They
but it was a mess. I had a
Sure.
historic preservationist to come and work
Oh, I see.
on
Very
it.
interesting.
So anyway, we have Mary set up here with a trundle bed as if she and her 3 daughters would have stayed here. Mainly because most of the people in the house were men. And we thought, well, she's going to keep those girls away from all the men. That's the only reason we have it set up like this. As I said, she could have been in that back storage area and more boarders could have been here. There is one thing that leads me to believe that she might have been in the back, and that is a story about, I told you, all 7 who escaped Harpers Ferry came here.
Oh,
Came back to Chambersburg looking for help from Mary Ritner. 4 came together. The last 4 who came knocked on the bedroom window. And so I'm thinking, if the sheriff's watching here would have been out front, I'm thinking maybe Mary was in, maybe they they used a beanpole to knock on the bedroom window. And so I'm thinking maybe Mary was in the back. But she said to them, she yelled back to them, "Go away, the sheriff's watching the house, I can't help you." And they didn't. They went down in the woods beyond the Conicajig, where I showed you where the Conicajig. They went down there and they waited for a train, and they got on the train, and those four escaped. Whereas Hazlitt, who actually got here for dinner, and she said, "You've got to leave now," and supposedly he hid his gun in the yard, but no one has ever found it. And he got on the train, but he was caught at Carlisle, and he was taken to Charlestown, and he was hanged.
Caught
John-
by legal authorities. That's why.
And I think that the sheriff at the jail in 1856 to 1859, Sheriff Brown,
Yeah.
I think he was an abolitionist, but he couldn't be open about it.
Oh, he would be operating out of the jail. Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's where I operate. So the other ones, the seven who escaped from Harpers Ferry, the four got on the train. One was Hazlitt, who was caught in Carlisle. One was John Cook, who came through Mont Alto, and he was caught. And he was taken to the jail.
Oh.
And Alexander McClure was our representative, friend of Lincoln's, whatever. Okay, he had this plan that he was going to help him the next day, but too late because a warrant had already been sent out, and so before McClure could save him, they came from Virginia and took. And so John Cook was taken there, and he was hanged also, while his wife is downstairs in that back room, and they didn't even know one another. They didn't.
Could it have been possible that Chambersburg had a little bit of a rep in Virginia for abolitionist, activities in the town? A town where abolitionists were very,
yeah.
which might.
I mean, as I can tell you, I know that there were abolitionists in Franklin. And were you over at Mont Alto?
No.
You did not? I just wanted to tell you about how many, the ones that escaped, they're the ones that are important. John Cook did not, Hazlitt did not. The four men who stopped here got away, and there was one black man, and his name was Osborne Anderson, and he was pretty smart. And he stayed with Watson, the barber, and he made his way north, and he was free also. So out of all of the five got free. The other two were hanged in Virginia.
I'm just curious, from what you read, what is the safe? In other words, they're escaping north. So if they make it to Harrisburg, are they in safe territory?
No, they keep on going north.
Okay, then I get it. There's no Pennsylvania is risky because there are these slave catchers that operate.
Yeah, and they're all around. Well, didn't you learn about
Such a great old house. And so you see, back in the day, what I was trying to show you here is that we would sleep on a netting of rope. And we've got some lye soap and a bone comb. And yes, we actually did have socks just like that back in the day, and I've got some just like that. There were machines that made socks back in the Civil War era. But this is some incredibly beautiful home furnishings. And if you're tuning in, thanks for tuning in to this excursion into the past. Me and the professor are over investigating John Brown.
Hello?
Hello, hello.
Oh, are you still up there?
Yep, I'm coming. Thanks so much for such good information.
Watch your head.
Oh yeah.
Well, did
I've
John
done a lot
Brown
of-
bump his head there? John Brown bumped his head there too.
Yes, he did.
How tall was the guy?
6 feet.
Oh, so
He
he
could not have
did.
walked through here.
Yeah, how interesting.
He would have had to.
That's part of his leadership qualities, is pure height.
You think?
At the time, yeah. It seems like leaders, a lot of them are tall. When you general people look up to a degree, helps.
I
Okay,
never
so,
thought of that. I never
I heard
thought
somebody
of that
saying that when you
aspect
look at
of
the
leaders
famous
being tall.
people, histories, that particularly
Except for,
military,
that
What
Napoleon
about, yeah, I
guy.
was going to say, what
he's
about
the,
Napoleon?
he's the exception to the rule.
Thanks so much for the nice tour.
Sure
Yeah,
thing. Come back.
we will.
You have to take a tour of the jail, did you not?
Yes.
Well, you said you were here the
Well, I
other
did.
day?
I was here yesterday. I took a jail tour 2 days ago. I've been checking out Chambersburg so the past couple of days because I discovered they have neat little restaurants there, like the falafel place.
Falafels
Yeah, really.
and Belgian waffles. And
Oh, yeah.
So with that and the exploration of the history, I'm always interested in
We've-
history.
you
We've
see
done
how-
everything in Gettysburg.
Well,
We live there. Just a little, one of the tidbits of why we came here today, and one of the reasons that we come here for our excursions into the past. The Chambersburg was burned by rebel cavalry July 30th, 1864. 537 buildings destroyed. The value of real estate, $713,000.
They're not open, so.
June 26, 1863, General Robert E. Lee and staff entered this square. That's my favorite. That's my favorite song. #1 big hit of the day here in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Hey man, go kick that car. Much better. 1863, General Robert E. Lee and staff entered this square after conferring with General A.P. Hill near the middle of the diamond. A diamond is what town squares were called back during the Civil War period. Lee turned eastwards and made headquarters at the edge of town and then headed to Gettysburg. Nice little back alley brewery. It's always nice of Gary to get me out and about. I'm shut up inside most of the time, and he always has someplace interesting to take me. Taking me out for a walk. And I hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks for coming along. Roy Pitts Brewing Company. And I think we are going to opt for tacos today. Chambersburg is a nice little town. Little variety, change of scenery from Gettysburg.
Oh, John Brown's body lies molding in the grave, while weep the sons of bondage whom he ventured out to save. And though he lost his life in his struggle to free the slaves, his truth is marching on.